cab. I'm here at the Jungle Club here in Koh Samui, but not as a YouTuber. I've stopped doing that a little bit now. I'm just doing some smaller videos. But I'm here as a tourist, and it's lovely to be somewhere like Koh Samui and just enjoying it for what it is without having to go around and do loads of videos. Now then, I get a lot of comments on my channel about why I look so young when I'm approaching my 72nd birthday, which is great. So today I want to give away some of my secrets that have enabled me to keep young and healthy throughout my life. First up, I'd say drink lots of alcohol. I started to go out to pubs and nightclubs at 15.5 when I left school and I got my first job. In those days, no ID was ever needed or asked for, and the main criteria for drinking alcohol in pubs in 1966 was having enough money to buy a pint, not your age. Since then, I've drank my way around the world for over 55 years, and though I've never reached alcoholic status, I have had my moments. So number 2 on my list would be try to avoid the gym or any regular exercise whenever you can. Growing up in Middlesbrough in the 1960s, gyms were pretty thin on the ground except for in schools. So when I left school, the only exercise I got was putting a couple of jumpers on the ground to use as goalposts and playing football with my mates. So a big part of my looking younger than my age, I put down to lack of exercise when growing up. Number 3 on my list would be have lots of late nights and try to have as little sleep as possible. In my younger days, going out to pubs and clubs, I'd normally get back to my mum's house at about 3 AM and I'd have to be at work by 7 AM. So the lack of sleep over the years when I was younger was a big factor for me looking young and fit in my old age. Number 4 on my list for staying young would be your diet. Growing up, and even today, I've made sure that I've stuck to the Great British diet as much as I could, even when travelling and living overseas for much of my life. Such as full English fried breakfasts, bangers and mash, fish and chips, pie and mash, sausage, egg and chips and beans, and lots of bread and butter to make chip butties with, and large Sunday roasts after a Sunday afternoon drinking session while watching strippers undress at the local working men's club. So I've always followed a healthy diet. Even today, 50 years on, I make sure that my intake of fats and sugar are maintained to the highest level to ensure that I stay fit and healthy. So tip number 5 would be avoiding drugs. In 1967, a year after I left school, the Beatles released their iconic song Strawberry Fields, the very first song in their psychedelic era when the band were experimenting with mind-altering drugs. Before that time, marijuana was the drug of choice for most people in the UK, after alcohol of course, but being a non-smoker, marijuana was not my scene, though I enjoyed the odd talk behind the school sheds just to be accepted socially by the in crowd. But to be honest, drugs were never really my scene. But in 1968, after going to watch the Isle of Wight Music Festival, which was the first ever outdoor music festival in the UK, and was a year after the USA's much acclaimed Woodstock Festival, so after listening to too much acid rock, I took my one and only acid trip in Sloopy's nightclub in Middlesbrough on Saturday night. Later, when walking home alone that night, I thought that I was fine and wondering what all the fuss was about regarding the psychedelic drugs, when I looked up at the town hall clock to see what time it was and saw that it was slowly melting. Looking back to ground level, all of the cars were driving in reverse except for a few of them that were now floating above my head, and there was a herd of purple antelopes walking towards me. So that was my last foray into the psychedelic drug scene, thank goodness. And from then on I relied only on alcohol as my drug of choice. So number 6 would be, for my list of trying to stay young in retirement, would be vaccinations and medical checkups. I've never been one for pumping legal drugs into my body, the same as I haven't put too many illegal drugs into my body either. As a child, I had all of the normal vaccines such as measles, diphtheria, chickenpox, tetanus, which were par for the course in those days and relevant. But since then I've tried to avoid them whenever possible. The few times that I have had to have vaccines have not ended well. I had to have a course of anti-malaria drugs as a requirement of taking a job on a rig tender sailing out of Papua New Guinea some years back, and I ended up having to be medevaced off the ship and repatriated back to Australia when I had a dangerously high temperature and an itching red rash all over my body. The next time that I had a problem with vaccine was when I had to have 2 COVID vaccinations so that I could travel around Thailand, because no hotel would accept your booking unless you could produce a COVID vaccine certificate. Over the 3 years that COVID was prevalent in Thailand, I tested positive twice. The first time it was just a sore throat and a cough, and the next time it was just like a dose of the flu. But when I was forced to have the COVID vaccinations, I was very sick for weeks after, and the symptoms from the vaccinations continued for months and made me quite ill. So joking aside, I put my looking a little younger than maybe I should and being fit and healthy down to having good genes and not much more. My mum looked much younger than her age for all of her life, and luckily I took after my mum, not my dad, who always looked a lot older than his age. Whatever the reason is, I'm just happy that I've lived a good life with no serious illnesses or major health problems, and in 71 years the only time that I've spent time in hospital is through a motorbike accident here in Thailand, and I've led a life with very little illness since I was born. Having said that, I've also led a full and interesting life, and I've never been one to just sit on the sidelines watching the world go by, so I think that's a big factor in staying young at heart, though it may not have a lot to do with looking younger than my age. As I said, that's just the look of the genes that you're born with. Though I also think that getting out of Middlesbrough and England when I was 19 and living and working in some of the most beautiful countries in the world, and now retiring to Thailand, which has given me a new lease on life, has also contributed to me staying healthy, young and fit. I also now try to have a healthier diet, and though I don't go to the gym or exercise, I do walk on the beach most days and swim a lot. But I live in the knowledge that if it all went wrong and my life ended tomorrow, I know that for 71 plus years I've lived an exciting life that even many of the rich and famous haven't lived. So thanks very much for watching. If you're thinking of making Thailand your home in retirement, take a look at my book, The Retire in Thailand Handbook 2023. Or if you're thinking of retiring in another country, take a look at my book, The 10 Best Countries in the World to Retire on Your Pension. Both books will help you to make the decision on where is the best country for you to live out your golden years. If you'd like to know a little bit more about me and my life, I wrote my biography, You'll Never Amount to Anything, which were the cutting words one of my teachers said to me the day that I was leaving school for the last time when I was 15 years old. His actual words were, "You'll never amount to anything. You'll end up on the dole, an alcoholic, or in prison." And I've spent most of my life proving that he was wrong. So thanks very much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Cheers for now.